This is going to be a bit of a lengthy video, but I think it's something that I need to explain, and it is what archaeology is all about and how we do it. It's going to be real basic, but bear with me. So archaeology is based on historical documents that we have and historical points of interest that have been listed biblically and through extra-biblical sources. We currently dig off of previous excavations from like the 1800s and the 1900s that were done by mostly British archaeologists. And we use ground penetrating radar to help us see the sites that we dig on, see underground, see what may be under there, and if it's located near any of the previously excavated spaces. Now, a whole site usually includes the top of a tell or the top of a hill that has been built up to be tall in order to see the surrounding area. For example, Tel Hadid is an olive grove that on one side faces Jaffa and Tel Aviv and the Mediterranean, so you can see who's coming into the Jaffa port. And you want to see who's coming in because that lets you know that, people in boats are coming your way. And on the other side, of course, it sees the opposite direction, way, way, way out into the field, and it's surrounded by valleys and rivers, and it's actually built over a highway because what they originally planned was to dig over the hill for the highway, but because in the 1990s, there were some developments, some ancient housing developments that were found, they had enough evidence to suggest the site needed to be explored further, so they built the highway under the hill. So we have several areas on the site we've got AA, which is just a label for an area. We have B, we have C, we have T, we have V. Not like we couldn't get any rhyming things going on. But we label the areas so that we'll know how to document the finds and how to even talk about where we put our waste dust. So when we excavate and we clear out dirt and we create these large holes, we also have to have an area where we put the dirt. And we need to tell people where it is so that if they find things in the years to come, they'll know that it wasn't anything significant because it was out of context or out of its main time period. It was just topsoil, or it was just removed dirt. And so the finds within that removed dirt isn't necessarily something to take into account. We were basically looking for what we consider clean context, which means that the material within the dirt we remove is consistent within the same time frame, and it will be between the layer, the earlier year and the later year, but it will be clean within that time frame, like the Iron Age. If we dig a certain level and we see only Iron Age pottery, we know that that's an Iron Age time frame, and it's consistent, and there's no other mix in there with it. So having said that, some of you saw a picture of me saluting a square. You thought death or something. I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny because I'm goofy and I wanted to say farewell to my previous area on the site. So I was in an AA, and now I have moved to the top of the hill, and I'm working on a podium in the area T. So I have another dig that I do, and we have S3 and E3 and W1 and N1. That's, south, east, north, and west. And we also have an A, and we have a T. So that just gives us points where we are on the top of the hill itself so that we can actually document what's going on in that particular area. So for those of you who were freaking out because you were like, what is she talking about with this saluting and her thing and whatever? I had a few friends that were worried, and I'm like, it's nothing major, I promise. But just wanted to clear that up. And so that's just a little bit about how we go about. There's much more that goes into how we decide to dig and where we decide to dig. And sometimes it's just a bit of a wild guess. We look at what we have in a current location where we are digging. Say, in my current excavation, we have walls in a particular area, and we want to open something between one area and another to see if those walls continue based off of the direction that they go. So a wall may go from southwest to northeast, but does it continue going outside of that area to another connected place? And the only way we can know that is if we open up another area between the two. So very often we do probes before the season starts, to see, and those are about 1 foot by 1 foot, and we dig down as far as we can for a whole day and see if we can bring up anything. And we did that in 2020, and some of our 1 foot probes actually gave us some indications that there might be some things. A line of stones that were relatively well formed and set in a consistent pattern, and that let us know there might be a wall. So we opened one, you know, relatively close and see where that leads, and we may get bigger and we may open some, so a lot of what we do is based on what we see when we dig and what we see through ground penetrating radar, because radar just shows us that there's something under the ground. It doesn't show us necessarily the density or the size or the width or the height, but it just gives a signal that there's something there. So a lot of what we do is kind of theoretical, I guess, or a hypothetical science, but it's also a destructive science because you can't put it back together. But that's kind of what archaeology is all about. It's not necessarily about finding things as much as it is revealing what is there and how it's connected to the surrounding area. Because also being in a vineyard or an olive grove or something, we also look at the vegetation and see, where are the water sources? Are there any water sources? If there are not trees, does that mean that there's something under the ground? Because roots aren't going to go through buildings necessarily, or because they're not going to be fed by bricks. They need water and they need moist soil. So lots of things go into how we determine how to dig. But I'm hoping that I get to share some exciting things with you all very soon. We have 2 weeks left in this particular excavation, and then for me, I have 5 more weeks of digging and 2 other sites after this. So more to come soon. Just thank you all for your prayers and for your encouragement. And I'm sorry that I haven't been in touch as often as I'd like, but let me tell you, when the day is over, after handling pickaxes and hoes and shovels and dumping buckets, I have fallen flat on my face in bed and gone to sleep in a dirt pile. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm just sorry, but I love you all and I appreciate you, and I will share more very soon. Have a good week.